I just popped a few paracetamol to soothe my slightly swollen sinuses, and you might hear the occasional word that comes out like I've got a bit of a cold. I can feel my nose just going, no, mucus time. It's podcast o'clock, not mucus time. Come on, deal with it.
Bond Jam time.
Now come along and listen to us talk with the Bond Jam. Go and have a lovely little walk with the Bond Jam. Or maybe put it on and go to bed with the Bond Jam. Or grab yourself a slice of toast and spread with the Bond Jam.
Hello and welcome to Bond Jam with me, Simon Jeffrey, and I'm joined by the wrong pussy to my right idea. It's Mr. James Turner.
I completely forgot you were doing that whole charade at the start.
I don't know how we've got to this point where it's just become an insult to you at the beginning of each episode.
I just go with it now.
Honestly, I had second thoughts about that one. I was like, is that too harsh? But my partner encouraged me to use it on you, so you've got Katie to blame for that. Yes, today's episode is all about Diamonds Are Forever, Sean Connery's final role as James Bond from 1971, at least until he appeared unofficially some 12 years after this. Coaxed back to the role for, I think, a record-breaking sum of money at the time, following George Lazenby's solo outing on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Yep. I get the sense that the producers just wanted to retreat back to familiar turf.
Yeah.
And we'll get into how successful that was. But first, James, could you do me a favour and describe the plot for me as best as you can, please?
Oh, I wasn't expecting to ask that question, but okay then.
It's not like I ask you at most episodes when I remember to, is it?
So after Bond's wife has been killed in the last film, Bond then goes out hunting for Blofeld, even though we don't actually get any mention of the fact that his wife has been killed in the last film. He finally finds Blofeld after hunting him down and just kills him in some mud. And then he's just given a mission then to find some diamond smugglers. So I think he just must have got bored with this big mission that he's been hunting down Blofeld for, and now he's just like, all right, we'll just put you on some diamond smuggling case, which I don't know why MI6 are involved in that, but hey, maybe the police aren't doing a good enough job. So he's sent there just to find who's responsible for all these diamonds going missing, and just by coincidence, this random mission that he's been assigned is all been orchestrated by Blofeld, who's still alive. So Bond then has to defeat Blofeld. Spectre is never mentioned in the actual film at all, by the way. But apparently it must be something to do with Spectre, I guess. And then Bond then dispatches Blofeld in the most boringest way possible again. And then that's it. That's the end of the film.
Well, that really was a brief summary, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you want us to go more detail?
No, we'll get there. There. It's funny because you mentioned there that this is taking place on the heels of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And
yes,
I think you do get the sense that, given the context of what we know as an audience going into it, we kind of put two and two together in our heads when we watch it and go, well, obviously that's why he's hunting down all these people and interrogating them. Yeah. But it's never explicitly said in the film. In fact, no events are alluded to from the film, and I think that does kind of cement this idea that they are probably trying to forget On Her Majesty's Secret Service, as much as that film has grown in favour over time with audiences, and it's now viewed upon as being much better than it was probably thought of at the time. And you can hardly blame them for that attitude, I think. If you think about it at the time where, up until that point, Sean Connery had been the only James Bond.
Yeah.
And then they make one film with someone else, and then it goes back to Sean Connery. It's kind of understandable why the temptation would be, can we just pretend that one didn't happen?
Yeah.
If you imagine like a kind of like an X-Men movie where they made one Wolverine film with someone else, and then Hugh Jackman came back. It's that level of like, he was James Bond. Sean Connery was James Bond, and then just for one film, it wasn't him. I think maybe over time, as the actor changing became more of one of the tropes of the film series, and audiences just grew to accept that over time. But at the time that George Lazenby first did it, it wasn't probably as comfortable a transition. And this film, as much as you could view those sequences as he's after revenge, he's out for blood, at the same time, it seems like it's maybe pretending it didn't happen at all. And I did actually see a thread online recently about people discussing how, in their own headcanon, they tend to view Diamonds Are Forever as happening before On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Right, okay, right.
And there are various things in the film that would certainly make that believable. For a start, there's no mention of Tracy or no sign of grief in Bond's portrayal. The film opens in Japan, where he was last seen in You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
So it's possible that they were sort of just going, let's pick up from the last time Sean was here.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe he's just looking for Blofeld because Blofeld escaped the volcano, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Funnily enough, we do get 2 of the 3 places that Moneypenny lists at the beginning of On Her Majesty's Secret Service appear in this film.
Miss Moneypenny, have you checked with communications?
Well, replies to our Cairo, Amsterdam, and Madrid inquiries, all negative, sir.
And we get Cairo and we get Amsterdam in this film. I was just sitting there waiting to see if we got Madrid at any point, and I don't think we do. But who knows? Maybe Marie is in Madrid. She's in an unspecified location.
It does look like a Spanishy sort of location. I could imagine that being Madrid.
Yeah. So there's an argument there. I think certainly at the time they were probably saying, let's brush this one under the carpet a little bit and just continue with again, the sort of typical Bond loose continuity anyway. But certainly there seems to be no effort in Sean Connery's portrayal to even acknowledge the events of the previous film. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it really fares particularly favourable if you view it as a direct follow-up.
Yeah.
I certainly think that was probably their original plan, if George Lazenby had stayed on, was to pick up with that revenge sequence. It would have been much more effective.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see.
I actually quite like the concept of the scene, just bursting into the film straight away with this energetic, this hunt, you know, just pummeling him for information right off the bat. You know, it's just like, where is he? Where is he? You know, and he's just going from one person to the next and getting names and locations, and it's really intense. And on paper, it sounds great.
Yeah. But
from the very, very moment this film begins, there are just immediate cracks and wobbles that make you think, oh, there's a dodgy close-up on that guy who's clearly not saying anything. Cairo!
I mean, I'm trying to say Cairo there without moving my mouth.
Cairo.
Sort of possible.
I did an edit once, didn't I? Remember I took that scene and
I'm sure you sent it.
I redubbed that guy, so he just made what he looked like, the noises he looked like he was making.
Yeah,
and he was just like, and then I just edited in him holding up a little piece of paper that said Cairo on it.
That's right. Yeah. You need to share that. See if you got it somewhere.
I'll see if I've got it. I'll put it on Instagram or something. That was funny. So we have the Cairo man, who is just the first of a bunch of wobbly moments in this film that don't get it off to the best start. Then he goes and tortures that poor girl by the by the beach.
Yeah.
There is a sort of slightly uncomfortable sense of him really enjoying what he's doing in that scene rather than seeing it as a necessary means to an end.
Yeah. That scene, that's the first time we actually see Connery back as Bond.
Yeah.
And it feels a bit underwhelming because we've heard his voice going, where is he? And then, okay, this is Sean Connery. We're building up to this point where we're actually going to see Sean Connery back as Bond. Could you imagine audiences, the build-up for that happening at the time, and then suddenly it's just like...
He just comes sauntering down those steps in his, like, sandals. He kind of, I hate to say it, but he looks a little out of shape in this one.
That's it. I was going to bring this up. Like, Connery in this, it doesn't seem like the Connery we've seen in the previous Bond films.
No.
I think he's obviously, I won't say let himself go, but he feels older.
Yeah, and it's difficult to talk about really because I do tend to find myself quite defensive of people who would detract from Roger Moore's later films, particularly.
Yes,
and kind of play that anti-ageism card and say, well, you know, people are allowed to get older, you know. But in this case, there's something about it which I find distracting. And I think maybe it's because it's meant to so closely follow his last film.
The thing I've noticed in this viewing was his eyebrows. In previous films, he's had his eyebrows plucked, and I always feel like said to Sean Connery, right, we like to pluck your eyebrows again like we did in Goldfinger or whatever, and he's just like, no, okay, go away.
I get the sense that Connery demanded a lot of money and called a lot of the shots in this.
Yes, yeah.
And they were like, any chance of, hitting the gym? No. No.
There are moments, though, for me where I think, oh, yeah, that is, he delivers that well. Like we were saying in On Her Majesty's Secret Service that George Lazenby doesn't play the cockiness very well. He just comes across as arrogant and an idiot, basically.
Yeah, it's a kind of boyish smugness rather than
the smugness with Lazenby. Whereas when Bond corrects, is talking about the sherry or whatever it is in the at the start of the film, where he explains to M what he was actually talking about. Connery does it so well.
Yeah, I think if Lazenby had done that sherry scene, you'd probably want to punch him in the jaw. But Connery kind of just makes you go, lol. And M seemingly does a look almost directly down the camera at one point and rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, James. Is the pre-title sequence of Diamonds Are Forever the weakest of the entire series?
Of the entire series, that's a good question. It depends what you look for in a pre-credit sequence. Just because you could say, well, Live and Let Die don't even feature James Bond at all in it. So does that?
Yeah, Live and Let Die is not great either. But even after he's done his little hunt and it goes to the plastic surgery part where they're in that weird cave, and what are they doing to that guy with all that mashed potato and sludge? Like, is that what plastic surgery used to require? Are they taking a life cast of him or something? Was kind of cosmetic surgery still in the realms of science fiction in those days?
Yeah, it's weird.
It is bizarre, and it's such a weak fight sequence. It's like people are just stood around waiting.
Well, I think it's not just that opening scene. Even like the Bambi and Thumper scene, I just felt there's moments where they're just like walking in slow motion.
Yeah. To
the point where it's like, well, they are waiting for the fight to happen sometimes. I just think, what is going on?
Bond is stood an arm's distance from Blofeld, who is just, the other side of this gurney or something, just shouting orders at his guards, go, get him! Get him! And they just come in one at a time, and he's just stood there. And he stands there looking at a guy pointing a gun at him out of the sludge, out of the mashed potato, and he just stands there for a few seconds, just contemplating, what shall I do? That's a gun there, isn't it? It's pointing at me. I should probably move. Dive and roll, flip, drown him in sludge. And then like washing his face off, and it's like, that guy's clearly not dead. But the same thing happens twice in this movie, actually. Once with the guy who's buried in the sludge at the start, and then once again with, is it Mrs. Whistler, who they drag out of the...
Yeah.
And both times these are actors pretending to be dead, and both times, through no fault of their own, they're unable to refrain from flinching. I mean, you try and pretend to be completely dead and then have someone spray you in the face with a water pistol. Right? And then the second time, when they drag Mrs. Whistler out of the river, they're sort of brushing the hair off her face, and one of the extras, one of the police officers, just jabs her squarely in the eye. Just trying to get the hair out of her face and just jabs
I missed that, to be honest.
And you just think, well, no wonder she flinched a little bit right there. And she did a pretty good job, all told. So I think, for my money, this is probably, if not the weakest of the series, certainly the weakest one I can think of that contains Bond. Now, I tell you what, this is still worse than Live and Let Die for me.
Yeah, at least Live and Let Die has the intrigue, the enigma to it, whereas this is just like a child came up with the idea of the opening.
I'm starting to think that maybe Guy Hamilton's success with Goldfinger was kind of a bit of a fluke, because the direction going on in this film from the very early scene is kind of just very uninspired and unenthusiastic.
Yeah, well, you think about the fight sequences that you saw in On Her Majesty's Secret Service and how different they were when we watched them.
This goes back to this whole thing. I don't want to sort of form an opinion too much, and I know some people out there absolutely love Diamonds Are Forever.
Yeah, and I will be talking about some of the stuff that I really like about this film as well, by the way.
But I do think that it does sort of, broadly speaking, fall into that trap of, when compared to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, that film feels very much like, okay, we don't have Sean Connery, so let's pull out all the stops and we're going to have to really up our game here because we don't have our star. Whereas this one feels much more like, Connery's back, celebrate! Oh, what's that? Oh, sorry, we forgot to make an effort. Sorry. We got a bit too confident there, a bit too complacent. However, after the credits, which I think, again, a little bit awkward, that kind of transition from the cat to the eye, the diamond in his eye, to the zoom in, to the hands appearing. Even Maurice Binder's work here is feeling a little bit clunky and rough around the edges. The song is absolutely iconic.
I really enjoyed the song more than I normally do. I've never really been a fan of it, but it is a good song. It's
lyrically,
classic
it makes very
Shirley
little
Bassey.
sense. It doesn't seem like she's actually singing about diamonds, as far as I'm concerned. But the thing about this film is, it's probably one from that kind of main classic era of the Bond films where I put it on thinking, I haven't watched this in ages. I barely ever watched this one. And I was sort of like excited going into it, thinking this one is probably one out of those first 20 that I've watched probably one of the least amount of times. Yeah. When I say the least amount of times, I mean probably I've watched this less than 20 times in my life. So there is that excitement going into it of like, is this going to be the time where I reevaluate this film? But there's also, on the flip side, that part of me which goes, there's a reason I don't watch this one very much. Yeah. Here it is. I like the gun barrel. I like there's some new effects on it. There's a little bit of reflection going on in it.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
But as far as the pre-title sequence goes, I think it is one of the weakest of the series, if not the worst.
But after the pre-title sequence,
I was going to say,
I really liked it.
There's definitely fun to be had in this movie, although I have to say it's almost all in the first half and probably in the first 30 minutes after the titles.
Yeah.
Wint and Kidd are great.
I used to hate them.
I used to hate them
as a kid.
As a kid, I thought like I didn't get the fact that they were like kind of effete and not your typical tough guys.
Yeah.
I just thought like, how could they be threatening? But they absolutely are. For
they
that
are
very
really,
reason.
The fact that they are so creepy makes them really effective villains.
There's definitely overt suggestions made to their sexuality between the two of them. Typically, I guess, for the time, it's almost kind of fetishized in a way.
Yeah.
And particularly towards the end with this, with their comeuppance as well, is sort of plays into a few dodgy stereotypes here and
ruins
there.
It. The end ruins it. I mean, we'll discuss it later, but at the end really destroys their characters for me.
But I do really appreciate them. I kind of wish they had a better film in which to appear.
Yeah.
But I do like that whole bit with the dentist and taking him out of the with the scorpion and stuff. And then I really like that whole sequence where the diamond industry is kind of given this whole kind of backstory and how the processes work in South Africa and all the checks. It's quite an interesting use of all that kind of B-roll, the mining operation and the dentistry and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that for me is, really enjoyable stuff of like, here's how it works. There's a whole team of dentists and doctors and all that stuff, and it gets passed from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and you gradually see all these people involved in the smuggling operation, and they're people with otherwise legitimate jobs and quite nice people in other, I'm thinking of Mrs. Whistler here, but she's a perfectly nice, charming person who just happens to sort of take a bit of cash on the side and just to handle this packet of diamonds from one person to the next. And that moment in Amsterdam when they drag her out of the river and Wint and Kidd are watching, and that's genuinely dark and sinister.
There's quite a lot of bleak stuff in this, especially with surrounding Wint and Kidd.
Mr. Franks, your passport is quite in order.
Well, anyone seeing you in that outfit, Moneypenny, would most certainly be discouraged from leaving the country.
Bond takes the place of a man called Peter Franks, who I always think quite coincidentally, when he says like one line or something to someone at the airport, sounds suspiciously like Sean Connery. It's like, thank you. So that, if anyone has ever spoken to him on the phone, it's plausible that he could pass for him.
Yeah.
And he meets Tiffany Case, who is, again, another one of these people involved in the long line of people along this chain involved in the smuggling.
Make yourself at home. I'll be out in a minute.
So we meet Tiffany Case, who's mildly intriguing to begin with, at least.
Yeah, to begin with, she is intriguing, and you want to know more about this character, and she seems quite an interesting person to begin with.
To begin with.
So as again, I kind of like where it's going here. The film is going well so far.
Bond sort of Connery in that scene with Tiffany is just spouting those like one-liners and little comebacks effortlessly in a way that makes you think, this is pretty good stuff, like This is the Connery I sort of vaguely remember now.
Well, that's quite a nice little nothing you're almost wearing. I approve.
I'll finish dressing.
Oh, please don't. Not on my account.
The real Peter Franks turns up.
So Bond and Connery clearly have a little fun with Peter Franks.
Yeah.
Bond in this film a couple of times actually proves himself a master of talking himself in through a doorway. He does that great thing a couple of times where he's like goes for his keys, but they're just opening the door anyway.
Yeah. And then we have the fight in the elevator. He goes to punch Peter Franks, and his elbow smashes a glass behind him.
Yeah, I wondered about that because
it's clumsy.
I assumed that was meant to be the reason. I assumed it was meant to be like, oh, he accidentally breaks the glass and that alerts him.
Yes, yeah.
But it looks like Bond deliberately breaks the glass.
Oh, you think he deliberately does it?
It looks like Bond is meant to do it accidentally, but Sean Connery does it deliberately. And I think this fight scene has become a little bit over-celebrated in the in the small world of Bond fandom that
people
exists.
Compare it to the Red Grant fight, for example.
It does not deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as the train carriage sequence from For Russia With Love. It's the slowest lift in the world, or elevator, I should say, for the Americans. And it's the slowest damn lift I've ever seen. And it's like, why is this even happening? And it just seems a little... Like, I know it's meant to be messy, and some people would say, like, oh, that's how a real fight is. But it looks a little bit like, no, it is actually choreographed. It just looks like people kind of waiting for their cue a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Now you shove me, and then I'll elbow you. I don't get anything from this,
No.
I see what they were going for, and they were clearly trying to recreate that sort of close quarters intensity. But I was watching that scene thinking, why is this lift so slow? And the very fact that like she's only on the 3rd floor, I'd have thought Bond would just take the stairs anyway.
Yeah.
But could they not have changed that line to like, come up, I'm on the 12th floor or something?
Yeah, makes more sense, wouldn't it? So if you're on the 12th floor, you're going there all day, aren't you, waiting in that lift?
Well, that would make the lift a bit quicker, and then that would help, two birds, one stone.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So Connery deals with Franks.
Peter Franks, yeah.
Swaps his ID out so that when Tiffany Case discovers it...
Oh my God, you just killed James Bond.
You just killed world-famous secret agent James Bond.
That was going to lead on to my next question. How famous is James Bond at this point?
Famous enough that M should really consider just a redundancy package at this point. That was the basis of Roger Moore's entire decision to portray him the way he did, was like, well, come on, this is clearly a joke, because everyone knows him. He goes into a bar in India or somewhere, and they know what drink to serve him. It is ludicrous, but I think maybe it started with this one to some degree.
Yeah, possibly.
So, yeah, he manages, against all odds, to convince Tiffany that, he is Franks and he killed Bond. And then they use Peter Franks' body to get the diamonds out.
I would love to know where they're storing those
well, he tells
diamonds.
You, doesn't he?
Does he?
Because Felix comes out and he's like, all right, I give up. I know the diamonds are here, but I don't know where.
Yeah.
And Bond, in a reference to a line from Sherlock Holmes, where he would say elementary Dr. Watson or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. He says alimentary Dr. Leiter. The alimentary canal is the throat.
Oh, is that what you think he's referring to?
Yeah,
Oh, right.
but that still conjures up quite a grotesque image.
Yeah. How does he get it in there in the first place?
Like, oh, you just killed James Bond. Never mind that. Drag the body inside. Let's shove the diamonds down his throat. And that's why Felix gives that look of like, cheers for that, Bond. I know what I've got to do now. Pleasure doing business with you, as always. And on a side note, Norman Burton is not my Felix.
No. Is he the worst Felix Leiter?
This is not like any other Felix we've seen before. Even the older Cess Linder Felix was not grouchy and crotchety.
No, he was
this.
still friendly.
In this one, he's either grumpy and grouchy or just like having an anxiety attack and going, relax, I've got 100 agents. What? Like a mouse with sneakers couldn't get through. Like, I think he plays the part perfectly well, if only he wasn't meant to be Felix.
Yeah. He could just be another agent, CIA agent or something, I don't know.
So then we have this slightly odd business with Slumber Inc., where Bond has to sort of go through this facade of this cremation in order to play his part in the smuggling operation and
see, this is what confuses me now. So
starts to lose me a bit here as well, but yeah.
Because it was improvised from Bond to hide the diamonds in the body of the real Peter Franks. How did the Slumber Inc. work into it if that wasn't even the original plan?
Not entirely sure. Maybe the listeners can fill us in, because I'm sure someone understands this film better than I do.
Obviously, Winton Kid get involved again and put Bond in the coffin. That's really intense, I think.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God, how is he going to get out of this? This is horrendous. I'd hate to be in this situation. It feels a bit cheap the way he gets out of it. It's just, it just stops.
It would have been nice to see him outsmart his way somehow, if that were possible.
Yeah.
But no, instead, Shady Tree comes in. And at this point, I just start to think, my God, who are all these characters? I'm losing track here. Who is, like, Bert Saxby, you got Willard White, you got Shady Tree, you got Professor Dr. Metz, you got so many of these characters. You're like, hang on, who are you now? What has this kind of old insult comic got to do with any of this stuff all of a sudden? What is going on? Plenty's fun though, isn't she? She's just like an unashamed gold digger. And they go up to his room and look to be about to engage in some romantic activity together before being ambushed by the mob. And Barnes says, I'm afraid you've caught me with more than my hands up.
Yeah, no, what a line. What a line.
Bond's got a stiffy.
No show?
Felix, don't tell me you lost her.
We lost her.
What is the plan there? Where are they trying to follow Tiffany to?
I'm not really sure. I do get slightly lost in that whole casino part as to who these guys are who are tailing her, presumably working with Felix.
Yeah. So, for some reason, Tiffany Case is happily, I guess because she's seen somebody kill Plenty thinking it's Tiffany, that she's like, all right, I'll help you because, people are going to try and kill me because of these diamonds. So she decides to help Bond follow the tracks of the diamonds, I guess.
Yeah, she leads them to that gas station where they see Professor Metz.
Yes.
And this is where I think, through no fault of her own, I think Jill St. John does the part probably pretty well as written, but it's just written to become a bit of an annoying character.
Yeah, I think...
Because Bond's like, get in the way, stop him. And so she has to become this obnoxious, rude customer.
Like, hey, Curly, what are you...
You're going to get a shot in the mouth.
Keep leaning on that tooter, Charlie, and you're going to get a shot in the mouth.
And Bond jumps in the van, even though the guy behind the van can clearly see him. He just sneaks into the van behind.
Yeah, no, that always winds me up.
And then he gets led into the facility out in the desert.
Yes.
Where he meets one of my favourite characters in the film.
Yeah.
Hi.
Haven't seen you here before.
I'm Klaus Hergesheimer.
New here.
I've been here 3 years. G-section.
What could have been just like a really understated kind of bit part, a throwaway part. I just love that little conversation that they have together. And again, Bond does that great thing of kind of like striking up a conversation while he pretends to have a key card. and then sidling in through the door just as it closes. And more than just kind of like trying to get rid of the guy, he's just like, oh, we haven't had, he actually strikes up a more believable conversation.
Yeah.
And bless him, Klaus just gives him a spare and is like, off you go.
Yeah.
And then Connery, I say Connery because it just looks like he's having a lot of fun. Bond then interacts with Professor Metz and sees the satellite that's in there and generally just makes a nuisance of himself. And this is, I think, where Connery shines in this scene.
Yeah.
Because, again, he could have just been subtle about it and just, tried to not draw attention to himself and just get in, get out.
Yeah.
And go, oh, sorry, I'll get out of your way. Sorry, Professor. But he just takes that moment just while undercover to just make a little statement about the little man. And, that's a fun moment for me.
Yeah, and then it's followed by what's meant to be another fun moment, which is the moon buggy.
I don't understand this bit, James. What are the filmmakers suggesting here when we see the moon landing reconstruction?
The idea is that they're faking some sort of moon landing, aren't they?
But is this film suggesting that within the continuity, within the universe of Bond, the moon landings were staged?
Yes, but not necessarily, because you could look at it like, oh, their plan is to make something else look fake, not necessarily the actual moon landing, but you could look at it as that they're faking something else. Or I used to watch it when I was a kid thinking, oh, they're just practicing for...
Yeah, I think maybe I did as well, to some degree, but it's deliberately vague, I think. It seems to me to be one of those things where they just put it in because they thought it'd be funny at the time.
Yeah.
Well, the moon landing had happened between the last film and this, so it's very much on, in the public conscious at that time. They probably just thought this will be a funny nod to suggest that somehow it's all wrapped up in this Bond plot and maybe not entirely genuine, because I think from the very moment that man landed on the moon, there have been people saying, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
Then what happens, James?
Then we have this chase, which... I don't know how to describe it.
I think you just did with that sigh.
Yeah, okay. That's that kind of...
After 3, James, let's just describe this chase with a sound. 1, 2, 3.
This is the point where the whole film for me falls apart.
I was wondering, because I knew I knew that this film was not one I go to very often, and this time around I was wondering if I could pinpoint the moment, because like I said, apart from the pre-credits scene, I do enjoy the first 30 minutes or so of this film.
Yes, yeah.
But even John Barry gives up on this at this point. Boop, 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 boop. He probably looked at this and was like, well, I could put the Bond theme over this, I suppose. Where's my xylophone? I suppose it's played for laughs, but it's more boring than funny, I find.
Yeah, it is boring. I think that's the bottom line. It's a boring chase.
But why can't the people in the cars chase them properly? They're just crashing. Bond is doing nothing to outrun them. The cars could clearly go faster than the moon buggy. Yeah. But they're being driven by toddlers who can't reach the pedals and steer at the same time. Yeah. Because they're just driving into stuff. And, then they get the little baby trikes out that make them look Connery looks ridiculous on that tricycle. The one good moment is when they're chasing the buggy off and then Connery appears out from behind cover.
Yeah. Give it that. Yeah.
But it's just rubbish. And again, apologies if this is your favourite scene in a Bond film. Fine. But this is rubbish. So then, after that extended sequence, they get into a car, and you'd think, oh, this will be the point at which things pick up a bit. Yeah, at least they're in a fast vehicle now. And this is perhaps worse.
Yeah.
This car chase around Vegas was really testing my patience at this point.
Yeah.
It's so obviously just the pavements are lined with pedestrians just watching the filming. It really takes you out of it. You don't feel like you're watching a film. You feel like you're watching an episode of Top Gear or something where there are spectators just around
Yeah.
on the roads just watching them do the stunt, or behind the scenes footage or something.
And I feel like it's just always filmed on the same little
They
part
go
of
around the block,
Yeah.
don't they? They've clearly like closed one block of Vegas or something, and they
Yeah.
just seem to be driving in circles at
Yeah.
really kind of slow speed. Never do you feel like you're watching a high-speed pursuit, and I just think they are not trying in this, or maybe they are and they're just completely misguided.
Yeah.
So then, when that's over, they're at the hotel, and Bond's basically confined to his room, isn't he?
Yeah.
Under the orders, basically, to not go anywhere. However, they didn't think to put a guard on the balcony, so he just hops out and up he goes. And I actually I like the rappelling scene.
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah, it's cool.
gadgets. We talked about this in our video game episode. I'd like to play that part. I'd like to be able to fire it, and as long as you could miss,
Yeah.
you don't want it to be like a quick time event where you just push X.
Oh,
and
no,
it
yeah.
works
You've got to
perfectly.
aim
It's gotta
yourself.
you got to
Choose where to aim for.
I think it's missing a great wide shot. I think that would really make it sort of quite stomach churning if you'd got more of a sense of how high up he was.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like he was probably only a few feet from the floor.
Right, yeah.
And I think it might have been nice to have a shot that gave us a bigger sense of the danger, because it's a pretty impressive little moment. And
Yeah.
coming after the car chase, it makes you thankful that there's something that's actually quite a good stunt.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we finally discover that Willard White is Blofeld all along.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that voice changer thing is meant to work.
Don't get me started on this one.
It works down the phone, but it also works in person.
Yeah.
I'll send a deposition to the committee. Thank you, Governor.
Well, that's a neat trick.
A voice box, Mr. Bond.
This is the part where Bond comes face to face with a familiar face of Blofeld, even though he's never seen him looking quite like this before. This is the Charles Gray interpretation.
Yep.
What did you think of this, James?
What, when we first see him, or...
Broadly speaking, talk to me, because I've spoken for a long time. Charles Gray. Discuss.
Well, I mean, we have just mentioned how, when it was made, Unmentioned Secret Service was kind of dismissed and forgotten about, and it feels like the film was kind of gone from You Only Live Twice to this. So with that in mind, Charles Gray has just gone from being an ally who gets killed in the last film to the main villain. I just feel like that's far too soon a time to, even with Unmentioned Secret Service in the middle of it, it just feels like, oh my God, we just recast the guy that was in the film a few years ago, and we've already got him as the main villain. And it just feels like they've not even tried hard enough to find somebody who would have been a better Blofeld.
See, the thing is, I think this role is almost better suited to Charles Gray than Henderson. I think Henderson could have probably been played by anyone. And in a way, that kind of, coming from the sort of Hammer horror, slightly camp films that he'd been in, he's pretty well cast in this type of character.
Oh, I see. I disagree.
With one notable point that I must add, because I know you're going to disagree with me. If only he wasn't meant to be Blofeld.
Right, yes. Yeah.
Because I think, if you were to try and fix this film in some way, if you did think it needed fixing, you could make it infinitely better if you just called him something else.
Okay, yeah.
Because he doesn't really resemble Blofeld, the character that we know from previous films in any of their interpretations, which themselves were completely different from each other. But this is a completely different version again. It's very hard to imagine this is the Anthony Dawson, Eric Pullman version from Russia with Love,
yeah.
Feeding his fish, and that's not Charles Gray in that chair, and neither is it Charles Gray in a bobsled in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But I do find his performance quite fun and quite enthusiastic. I think he's having great fun with it, and I think he probably gets more to do in it than Donald Pleasance did, I think.
True.
If they just called him something else, he might well be, one of my favourite villains.
Yeah, well, that's one way of looking at it, yeah.
Because he's clearly bringing more than just phoning it in. He's clearly, having fun with it, and it's an intriguing concept to have this character where you're never quite sure whether you're seeing the real one or not. If you called him something else, it would kind of excuse most of what's wrong with the portrayal of it.
Okay, yeah, I could agree with you on that.
Because I think most of what you'd probably find complaints with is probably because it doesn't feel like Blofeld to you.
Yeah, he's meant to be this guy who's been built up throughout these films, and essentially this is the last proper appearance of him, if you discount the For Your Eyes Only version. So it just feels like he goes out with a whimper with this film, just because the character just kind of becomes not as powerful as he once was.
Why do Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd put Bond in a piece of pipe?
Because they're weird, okay? Yeah.
How is that meant to kill him? What I quite like about it is they're so determined to have fun with Bond. They keep trying to come up with a fun way of killing him.
Yeah.
And he just won't let them.
Yeah.
They are really just out to cause chaos as far as I can see, and they seem to really enjoy inflicting pain and planning fun ways to kill people.
Wasn't there a deleted scene where they shoot a gun and it just says bang out of it? I can't remember.
Maybe. It sounds like a scene from Batman.
Yeah.
So then Bond goes up to try and find Willard White, and instead comes across Bambi and Thumper.
I'm Bambi.
Good morning, Bambi.
And I'm Thumper.
These characters always appear on like any YouTube montage of like classic Bond scenes.
Yeah.
It's always the shots of like them cartwheeling around or kicking them in the face or whatever. And I think because of that and all the the Ultimate Edition DVDs and all the behind the scenes, and I'm just used to seeing clips from this scene in any Bond related montage that a TV commercial might put out, or like coming this summer a whole season of Bond movies. I'm Bambi and I'm Thumper. And it really has lent these two characters like a legacy that I can't honestly say they deserve.
Yeah, they appear in this. This is the only scene they appear in.
For like probably less than 3 minutes. And it's just lame. It's just a bit feeble. And like with several other scenes in this film, they seem to do a lot of sort of standing around, pausing, waiting for each other. Bond gets his ass kicked until suddenly he doesn't and just holds him underwater.
He is starting to get drowned, and then suddenly they're just like, oh, we give up. Okay, you've beat us.
They have their little fun scene, which I'm sure kept them in conventions and fan appearances for many years, so all power to them. Nothing against the actresses involved, but like I say, like the number of times you see these clips in kind of trailers for the series or whatever, it's just like it makes you expect more from this scene when it comes along, and it just does not deliver. And then we finally meet the elusive Willard White,
who's just basically
he's been locked away.
Yeah, he's been there all this time.
He's a fairly thinly disguised reference to Howard Hughes, who for many years, I think in the 60s, 70s, did just live in a penthouse suite and no one saw him for like a decade.
Yeah.
And so that's, the double initial kind of quite a thin reference to it. But I quite enjoy this guy, when he finally appears.
I didn't mind him. I remember I used to find him quite annoying when I used to watch it, but to be honest, I didn't mind him, actually. He was all right.
He gets one good line when Bert Saxby is killed, which I'm always glad when he dies.
Fired.
I don't know who Bert Saxby is or what his job was, so I'm just glad when there's one fewer characters to keep track of. Tell him he's fired. Then we go back to the casino, and Q is committing a major crime in...
Yeah.
I hope that he just sort of gave all that money to the casino again.
Clearly he didn't, because they stopped doing the whole circus act, so now they've run out of money and they don't do that circus act in Las Vegas anymore. So,
but that's like probably 6 months in prison, maybe, I don't know, $10,000 fine.
Yeah.
I know they come down pretty heavy on that.
Yeah. And then Tiffany Case is also there, who seems to be on good terms with him, even though it's the first time they've ever met.
I quite like that interaction, because she is now seemingly working alongside them.
Yes.
But she's also quite nervous about, like, look, one wrong word from any one of you, and if if you don't say the right thing to the judge or whatever, then, you know, my past could catch up with me, and, you know, I'm working with you guys now, right? So am I safe? Are we good?
Yeah.
Like, or am I going to end up in jail? You know, she's looking for some reassurance there, someone to vouch for her safety and immunity in all of this, because, you know, if this all goes south and she's the only one left and no one else knows about it, and she's going to be handed over to a judge and given a huge sentence. But she's quickly distracted when she sees a cat being carried through the casino.
By a woman.
A woman?
And then it turns out to be Blofeld, dressed as a woman. For some random reason, Blofeld is in the Circus casino.
Has Tiffany met Blofeld at this point?
No.
Is she any reason to recognise the cat, or...
Nope.
But she still thinks, that's interesting, I'll go after it.
Yep.
Can you do me a favour, just for one moment, James?
Yeah.
Just picture Donald Pleasance in that same costume.
Can you imagine?
Big scar down the face, and eyeshadow and the wig.
Well, it's as you say, you better imagining this not as Blofeld.
The thing is, if it wasn't Blofeld, I just don't care about, like, that's just fine. It's another kind of, it maybe just adds to the sort of slightly odd nature of this character, not to sort of cast any aspersions there, but
yeah,
I think it does go hand in hand with a bunch of other factors in this film that do sort of slightly fetishize the kind of campiness and the sexuality of certain characters. I suppose with Winton Kid as well, you know, the fact that they're shown as being homosexual in 1971 apparently equals their perverted or twisted in some way, you know. And I wonder if this is a sort of continuation of that same kind of outdated stereotype of, like, making him dress in drag
makes him
creepy in some way. I just find it funny. I just think, you know, if you don't view this as supposedly the same character who struck fear into all those other villains in the previous movies, you know, if you called him something else, I'd have no issue with any of this, you know. I think it's just not really Blofeld as we know him.
Mm-hmm. I also feel like this is just an excuse to try and keep Tiffany Case to have some sort of relevance to the story still, because I think after the whole diamond smuggling part is over, she's no use in the plot anymore. I just don't think there's anything.
Yeah. So they thought, well, let's have Blofeld sort of take her kidnapped, and then she can hang around on the oil rig a bit longer.
Yeah, exactly.
In any other situation, she would have stayed behind at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bond informs Willard White about the satellite, and they discovered the satellite's disappeared just at the very moment that it's about to be used, and a missile explodes, and the chaos begins, and the original Die Another Day starts. You know, they start using this space weapon, which is almost, it comes very late on in the plot that this is suddenly like, oh, this is what they were planning to do.
Yeah.
And you're almost like, isn't this like 2 hours into the movie, and all of a sudden the plan is actually finally revealed? And that eventually leads them to the oil rig, which they would have never found if Blofeld just hadn't included it on the model. There's a funny moment where he seems genuinely surprised that no one's called to offer the money.
No word yet from anyone. Only 12 minutes left. Oh, well, I suppose a little gentle prodding is called for.
It's like, oh, well, I suppose we probably will have to blow everything up then. I wasn't planning on it.
Yeah.
It seems like he went to all that trouble to put that diamond satellite in the atmosphere, but never actually planned on having to use it. And it's only because he's like, what? They haven't paid the ransom. Oh, well. Suppose we better do what we say. I mean, what sort of lesson would that show if we didn't do what we threatened to do? All right, let's bust out the chemistry set and make some unconvincing explosions go off. Yeah. The effects look really weak and feeble in this film for some reason. I don't know if like the usual company weren't available for this one or something, but every time one of those, you know, air bases gets exploded or missiles it's like the same composited little puff of smoke on top of the image every time.
Yeah.
And, you know, when they're shooting the helicopters out the sky later on in the oil rig scene, again, like not a single helicopter was ever blown up for real, it seems. It's like Just an optical little effect slapped on top.
Maybe they were just running out of money towards this point. Maybe
spent
they spent
it all on Connery.
On Connery, yeah, exactly. And as far as finale or climaxes go for a Bond film, I just find the Oliver a bit boring, to be honest, compared to things like Piz Gloria or the Volcano and You Only Live Twice. It's just, okay, this is where...
And Tiffany Case gets a bit of the short end of the stick at this point, where she's just no help at all.
Yeah.
She's there still, but not given anything dignified to do. There's a kind of funny bit, and I'm not sure if it's Bond being really casual or Connery being really lazy, but the way that he just kind of casually lets that balloon off and then just shoves the guy away when he's shooting at him. I wondered if there was more planned, like they were going, like, right, Sean, we want you to release the balloon, and then when the guards go to shoot it, you're going to have a scuffle with them. And he's like, what if I just push them away? Can we try it both ways? Yeah, but we'll try it this way first. Okay, great, we got that. Now can we do the more physical version? No, we can't.
And then we get the Bathos sub as well.
I swear, if I didn't know better, I would assume he was saying battle sub. But he is not, is he? He's saying Bathos sub.
Bathos sub.
And I just think we gloss over that now because we've heard the term too many times. But can we just stop and just repeat the words Bathos sub?
Battle sub would be so much cooler.
Am I missing something?
It's always been referred to, when you look at merchandise and books and all that, like, it's always referred to as the Bathos sub.
I'm just searching it to see if it's a real thing, but every Google result just brings up Diamonds Are Forever. So I'm guessing that there is no such thing as a Bathos sub outside the world of Diamonds Are Forever. And if this is meant to be Blofeld, as we must assume that the filmmakers intended it to be the Blofeld we've seen up until this point,
yep.
Are we really expected to believe that this is a fitting send-off?
Yeah, this is the most annoying part of this. It's like, he just gets in the Bathos sub and he just uses a crane to smash it into a wall, and
Bond
that's the end of him.
Plays around with him and just like drops him in, lifts him up, drops him lower, not up. And then it's over. Or, well, no, it's not over, because then we got a cruise ship at the end. And at this point, I've kind of almost forgotten that Wint and Kidd were even in this film at this point.
Yeah, I mean, up to this point, I kind of like how Bond has never actually met face-to-face with Wint and Kidd, like, conscious at the time. So it's like, oh my God, this is the time where he's actually with Wint and Kidd, and yeah, this could be interesting to see what happens.
I still kind of like the idea. I like the idea that they would pose as these chefs and come in and they get caught out because of his ignorance about the wine.
Yeah.
But the subsequent few minutes...
Ooh. That kind of just sums up everything that was wrong with that.
Mr. Kidd, bless him, with that funny little hangdog look that he has, that ridiculous hair. I don't know what his plan was with the kebabs. Just the way he creeps towards Bond with 2 flaming kebabs. I'm gonna jab you with some beef. So Bond sets him on fire and he just hurls himself over the edge. I mean, he could feasibly have survived that. We don't know, but...
Alongside with the bomb that they are also...
The bomb, surprise. No doubt Mr. Wint's reaction to the tails between his legs got a big laugh in the cinemas.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the implication there is or what the joke is meant to be. I mean, I think I know what the joke is meant to be, but I don't even want to say it out loud, what I think the joke is meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad send-off for the two of them. I think they deserve better than this. I think they deserve better than that scene, and I think they deserve better than this film.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But yeah, overall, I can see why I don't tend to revisit this one that much. We did say... back in episode 1, I think, probably, we kind of made a pledge not to ever completely rip apart anyone's potential favourite film in these episodes. Having said that, I think these episodes would be pretty bland if we never formed an opinion one way or another.
Yeah.
I'm going to honestly say, like, if you love this film, good for you.
Yeah.
I don't. I find it quite weak, almost across the board. In most areas, it seems a little either lazy or just misjudged in some way.
Yeah, there's a certain film that we'll get to later on, maybe from time, where I think it's amazing, yet it's often considered one of the worst Bond films. So I think when we do criticise it, we still understand that there's other people that do love these films in the same way.
Absolutely. And as much as, we were talking about this in other episodes and, being very open about why we have a certain opinion, and quite often it's because we grew up with it or it's the first one we watched. And so I entirely understand if this was your film, if this was your first one or your favourite as a kid, then you probably still feel that way about it. But objectively, they seem to take a kind of light, jokey, campy kind of attitude. I think probably to a large extent trying to recreate the success of, say, Goldfinger.
Yeah. And there were certain plot elements that are similar to Goldfinger with the whole gold smuggling, diamond smuggling,
I certainly felt like the scene with the diamond expert and the sherry conversation was reminiscent of the scene in Goldfinger.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
With the overdose of Bombois kind of conversation. It's very similar, and obviously the choice to bring Guy Hamilton back was probably not a coincidence either. Mm-hmm. I imagine their intention was to say, look, let's bring Connery back and give the audience a real fun one like we had with Goldfinger. But if that was their intention, boy, did they not quite achieve that. And that's coming from someone who does not think the absolute world of Goldfinger.
Yeah.
But it still does what it does far more effectively than this film.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That was our conversation on Diamonds Are Forever. Let's play Games with James.
Yeah!
Games with James.
Very enthusiastic response from you there, James.
Well, that might change depending on how this quiz goes.
We'll see. Now, back in our On Her Majesty's Secret Service episode, we did a Games with James, which was based on the quiz show Only Connect. Do you recall?
Yeah. And I did well on it.
You did very well. We discovered that your strong points seemed to be difficult quizzes. But at the time, I said that I wasn't a huge fan of the show itself. I found it a little bit elitist and a bit snobby. And while that's still true, I have to admit that I've been ever so slightly addicted to it ever since. I've been on a bit of a binging spree. I can't often get any of the questions right myself personally, but I've decided to give it another go.
Cool. Okay, that sounds good, because if I did well on the last one, I might be able to do well on this one.
Absolutely. But first, I do have a slight correction to make.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because I confidently claimed in the last Only Connect Games with James that the sequence of Waltz Carlyle, Carlyle Davy, Davy Lonsdale, and, as you pointed out, Lonsdale Savalas was the Bond villain actors' surnames from the final film of each decade in reverse order, followed by the next name in the chain. Now, as we all know, that's not true, is it?
No.
Because I confidently stated that Christoph Waltz was the last Bond villain of the 2010s, which he was. And then I went straight to the 90s.
Yep.
I seem to have skipped out an entire decade.
The 2000s do exist.
To me, 2000 to 2020 is apparently one decade. So the sequence should have gone Waltz, Amalric.
Amalric, yeah, that's right.
Amalric, Carlyle.
Yeah.
Carlyle.
Yeah.
Davy. So, apologies to no one, because no one cares. But no, I've cleared my conscience and I've cleared that up. But
Yes.
I just made a slight lapse in judgment. But who cares? Anyway, the round that we did last time on the On Her Majesty's Secret Service episode was actually based on the round 2 from the quiz show Only Connect.
Okay.
Which is the sequences round. We're actually going to do a game now based on round 1, which is the connections round.
Okay. So how does this
So we're
work?
actually doing it in kind of the wrong way round.
Yeah.
Also, I think I got the points system slightly different last time. I just made up my own system, not using the TV one. But, so this is based on the connections round of that game, which is actually round 1 of the TV show. And so basically, you're going to get given up to 4 different things, and you just tell me what the connection between them is. It's not about predicting the fourth in a sequence like last time. It's just about...
I was getting my pen and paper ready to write all these things down. But
well, you may still need a pen and paper, so do get them out. But rather than telling me what the next in a sequence is, you're just looking to tell me what connects these things.
Okay.
Now, there may be multiple things that connect these things together, but I'm going to stick with what I've got written down, if that's all right with you, James.
Right, yeah.
Also, in the last time we played it, I was rather generous in giving you loads of different chances to guess based on each clue in the sequence. Now, if I'm playing the strict rules of the game, you should only get one chance to guess these things.
Right, okay, one chance, that's fine.
And it's up to you to decide when to buzz in, so to speak, and guess. I'm not going to bother timing them like they do in the show, but I'm going to sort of time you out after what I deem to be a reasonable amount of time. So, if you're able to give me the connection based purely on the first entry in the sequence, which I'll be amazed at, but if you do that, you'll get 5 points.
Ooh.
If you go to clue number 2, you can get 3 points for guessing the connection, then 2 points, and then a single point if you need all 4.
Okay.
Okay, let's start off with just a nice quick sound that you can give me if you get one of these questions right, James.
Yeah!
I gave James the instruction to give me a slightly shorter one than he has done in previous episodes, and that's what you came up with. All right, James, can I have a sound for if you get one of these questions wrong? Can't wait to hear that. All right, are you ready, James? Get your pen and get your paper.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, here comes the first one. Can you tell me the connection? Here's your first clue. No.
No. No, I don't know the connection.
Next clue.
Next clue.
Live.
Okay, next clue.
Die.
Could be anything. How many? Did you say 5?
You've got one more clue.
One more clue.
If you want it.
Yep, go for the next one.
Your final clue after no, live, and die is tomorrow. What links those 4 things?
They all have the word die in the whole title. Yeah! That's good. Yay!
That's correct, James. These are the first words in Bond titles that contain the word die. Mm-hmm. So in the instance of Die Another Day, it is the first word, but all of those films contain the word die or dies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, question number 2.
Yep.
For 5 points, your first entry, Red Grant.
Okay, next one.
Franz Sanchez.
Okay. I mean, I could guess this one. It could depend on the next one that you say. So let's go for the next one.
Admiral Hargreaves.
Oh my god, that completely throws everything out of the window that I thought.
You got one more clue if you need it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, Red Grant, Franz Sanchez, Admiral Hargreaves. The final clue is Renard.
That is a weird bunch of characters there. I mean, well, to be honest, it's not a weird bunch. Admiral Hargreaves is the exception there. No, I can't see the connection. I'm going to have to take a pass on this one.
I think maybe you needed a question like this early on to sort of give you a taste of the sort of questions you're in for,
maybe.
James. These are all characters played by a person called Robert.
Oh, yeah.
You've got Robert Shaw, Robert Davi, Robert Brown, and Robert Carlyle. Okay, next up, the first clue is DAD.
Yep, next one.
The next clue is FAD.
Oh my god, FAD? Oh dear. Next one.
The next clue is DLT.
Okay. Okay. They are abbreviated Bond film titles spelt backwards. Well, abbreviated backwards.
That is correct, James.
Yay.
They are reversed acronyms for Bond titles. Funnily enough, DAD is the same backwards as it is forwards, so I just put that in to throw you. But yes, we have Die Another Day, DAD. FAD backwards would be DAF, which is Diamonds Are Forever, which we've just been talked about. DLT
is the
would
Living
be TLD,
Daylights.
The Living Daylights. Your final clue, which you didn't need, was KTL.
License to Kill, yeah.
Which would have been License to Kill. Well done. Okay, number 4. The first clue is Cara Milovi.
Okay. Next one, please.
VJ.
Okay. Next one, please.
Your next clue is Hugo Drax.
What the hell?
After saying how easy you found the last ones, James, I think you might eat your words with this.
Yes,
I might have
perhaps, yes.
really challenged you. Cara Milovi, VJ, Hugo Drax.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go for another one.
And your final clue is Baron Samedi.
I have no idea. I mean, I'm just going to go guess, but I know it's completely wrong because the Hugo Drax doesn't fit into it. But they all have a secondary hobby other than what the role they play. So Cara likes to play the cello. VJ likes his tennis. Baron Samedi, he likes dancing. And Hugo Drax likes cucumber sandwiches.
You will never know how well you will, because I'm about to tell you, but you are so painfully close. James. I can't give it to you because you're not close enough.
Yeah.
But you are so painfully close if you just pursued that thought a little bit further.
Oh, really? Go on.
They are all characters who play musical instruments.
What? Oh yeah, he plays the flute. So does Baron Samedi.
VJ and Baron Samedi play some kind of flute or wind
Hugo Drax
instrument.
plays the piano, doesn't he?
Yep. You came so much closer than I think you even expected there.
Oh, that's a shame.
That was very close. Well done. Okay, next up, your first clue is fluke.
Fluke. It'll be a fluke if we get this right.
Nice.
Next one, please.
Your next clue is Misty.
What the hell? No, next one.
Inferno.
Next one, please.
Your final clue is Pegasus.
Are these the horses that were racing in A View to a Kill?
These are all horses in A View to a Kill,
Yes.
not all being raced. Misty is the name of the horse in the painting that Zorin asks Bond to look at. The one that they're all descended from, I believe. Fluke is the horse that Moneypenny bets on, that she's shouting out, which I, for years, didn't know that's what she was saying. I thought she was saying blue or something. But she's going, Fluke, get a wiggle on.
I didn't know it was Fluke. No.
Inferno is the horse that Bond is given to ride, and of course Pegasus is the most well-known of the horses. Okay, next question.
Okay.
Your first clue is Quantum.
Means if I guess now, do I just do I lose then for that round?
Yeah. And if I can give you any hint whatsoever, I'd say don't guess now.
Okay. The next one, please.
So, Quantum was your first clue. The next clue is Mosque.
Mosque. How are you spelling mosque?
As in a Muslim mosque.
Okay, yeah. Let's go to didn't guess. Next one, please.
Aquarium.
God damn it. No, next one.
And your final clue is Quizmaster.
What on earth? Yeah, I'm going to have to pass on this one. There's no way I'm getting this one.
I think I might have upped the stakes a little too high on this one, given your success in the last one. You're probably going to kick yourself. You just probably weren't looking for this. If you were studying the words enough, you might have known that they're just simply words that contain M and Q.
Oh, come on now. That's what a joke. I was thinking about all the links between Bond and stuff, and it's not even a Bond-related link. They
all contain M and Q.
Cheating, that is. Right, okay, now I will be looking at other things now.
All right. Next up, your first clue is Quist.
What?
Quist.
How do you spell that?
Quist.
Quist. Okay. Next one, please.
Your next clue is Baines.
Okay. Well, the light Baines. Next one, please.
The next clue is Helga Brandt. can think out loud if you need to, James. What is anything going on?
Well, obviously Helga Brandt, villain in You Only Live Twice. Baines was an agent that was killed in Live and Let Die. Quist, I don't even know Quist. So next one, please.
The final clue for that one is Corinne Dufour.
They were all killed by animals.
They are all characters killed by animals. Well
Who is
done.
Quist, though? I don't know who Quist was.
Quist was one of Largo's henchmen. Who was
Right,
thrown
yes.
to the
Who
sharks.
get thrown into the sharks. Right.
Yes, so
Didn't know he had a name.
Quist was killed by sharks. Baines
Was killed by a snake.
killed by a snake at the beginning of Live and Let Die. Helga Brandt,
Killed by piranha.
yep, and Corinne Dufour was killed by
Dogs, rather
by
brutally.
dogs. Yes. Okay, next one. The first clue is gun,
And I'll go next one.
camera,
Nah, it's not worth the guessing now. Go on, next one, please.
the next clue is alarm clock.
Are these the gadgets that Q brings with him in License to Kill when he meets up with Bond?
These are all gadgets in Q's suitcase in License to Kill.
Yes.
Yes, you didn't need the final clue, which would have been toothpaste.
Ah, yes.
This is the penultimate question. Are you ready?
Yep, ready.
The first clue is Mathieu Amalric.
Okay.
Next clue. The next clue is Jesper Christensen.
I'm thinking along the lines of, are these actors who appear in Quantum of Solace? But I'm not going to guess that. I want to go for the next clue, please.
So you've had Mathieu Amalric and Jesper Christensen. The next clue is Jeffrey Keane.
Okay, that ruins that idea.
As if it would ever be something as simple as that.
Yeah, of course. One more, please.
And your final clue for that one is Robert Shaw.
Okay. They all play characters with a colour in the name.
They do all play characters with a colour in their name. Who do they play?
Oh, you got Dominic Green. You got Mr. White. Red Grant. Oh my God, who's Jeffrey Keane again?
Jeffrey Keane plays Frederick Gray.
Frederick Gray, of course. Yes, Jeffrey Keane.
Well done.
Yep.
Green hasn't added E, but they sound like colours.
Yeah.
Okay, final question. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
The first clue is Pierce Brosnan, The World Is Not Enough.
Okay. Next one, please.
The next clue is Judi Dench, Casino Royale.
Okay, hang on, let me think about this one. Okay, next one, please.
The next clue is Christina Wayborn, Octopussy.
What the hell? So Brosnan in The World's Not Enough is James Bond in The World's Not Enough. Dench in Casino Royale. It must be something to do with the character who plays M in Casino Royale. Christina Wayborn plays Magda in Octopussy. I feel like it's something that happens to their character. So you have to go one more, please.
One more.
Yep.
Grace Jones and Christopher Walken, A View to a Kill.
Two people just to ruin it for them. I'm going to have to say pass this one, I'm afraid.
Oh, never mind. The connection I was looking for was that these are all the actors who first speak the film's title in that film.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Pierce Brosnan says The World Is Not Enough in The World Is Not Enough. Judi Dench, as M, is the first character to mention Casino Royale in Casino Royale. Christina Wayborn says My Little Octopussy is the first person, not the only person, but the first person to say Octopussy in Octopussy. And Grace Jones and Christopher Walken complete the title together.
Yes.
When Grace Jones says What a View, and Christopher Walken adds
To a Kill.
To a Kill.
Although I got it wrong, that one. That was a good one.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
I think I went into this overly confident based on your abilities in the last one and was like, right,
I'm going to make it super hard.
let's trick him up somehow.
Can I? The Quantum Mosque Aquarium Quiz Master. That was just dirty.
You're still angry about that one, aren't you?
It's nothing to do with Bond.
Yeah, I'd watched a lot of episodes of Only Connect, and they occasionally have questions like that where it's not even. It's just like, oh, there's something hidden in the word.
Yeah,
like they all contain
that's
months of the year or something. But
it's naughty that.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate. Still, I wasn't keeping track of the score there, so I'll leave it to my automated text-to-speak generator to fill you in on the score.
James scored a magnificent 8 out of a possible 10. Wait, did I say 10? I meant 50. 8 out of 50. Way to go, James. Although to be fair, he would have had to get them all on the first clue to get 50 points, so 8 is not as bad as it sounds. It's still not great though.
Oh yeah, okay, I didn't do too bad there. That's good.
Yeah, thanks very much, text-to-speak voice that we definitely didn't hear at the time of recording. Probably was saying something unkind. And there we go. That was Games with James.
Games with James.
And there we have it, James. That wraps up our Diamonds Are Forever episode. That was episode 15.
Yep.
A nice, fun one. Diamonds Are Forever is an odd one for me because it's one of those films where it's kind of exciting putting it on to watch because every time I enter it with sort of renewed hope that this might be the time
it's like a
I
hidden
discover
Bond film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the one I probably watched the least often, and so I sort of entered into this kind of hoping that this would be the time that I realised its brilliance. I'm sad to say that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But if you've got a case to make as to why Diamonds Are Forever is worth another look for us, or perhaps a way that you find enjoyment in it, it's far from lacking in moments to enjoy. There are the odd moment here and there that I really like, but I think it's fair to say it's the weakest one we've watched so far.
Yeah. But I am interested to see why people like it though as well. As I think we understand those opinions out there, so
absolutely,
it's always interesting to find out.
We'd love to hear your reasons to love Diamonds Are Forever if you do, or any other thoughts that you might have. You can get in contact with us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at BondJamCast, and you can follow us on YouTube. Just search Bond Jam Podcast. You can watch this and all the other episodes as well as some other bonus content we've done as well. And if you have been watching on YouTube, you can listen to an audio version of this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, or you can go straight to the source on SoundCloud if you like. Follow us on all of those platforms. Subscribe to your platform of choice. I quite frequently have taken to putting out little posts and polls and questions on Instagram to gather thoughts from our followers. So do give us a follow on Instagram and get involved. It's always nice to hear from you. And we'll be back with our next episode, which I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, James. We might have something interesting planned since it's a bit of a beginning of a new era with a new actor to follow in the episodes that are going to come up. We're going to be in the Roger Moore era for probably the next few years.
Yes.
So I thought to mark the end of this Sean Connery era and the George Lazenby era, this in-between episode that's going to come up, we might switch things up a bit as a bit of a line in the sand, and maybe James will take the lead a little bit more. Who knows? I've done a lot of talk in this episode, so we'll see. I look forward to your games with Simon if ever that happens.
It'll happen. It's happening next.
Oh, great! I look forward to it. Well, until then, ladies and gentlemen, James.
Don't forget to spread that jam.
Spread that jam, everybody, and take care.
Cheerio.